United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has welcomed the decision by Botswana's High Court to decriminalize consensual same-sex relations between adults. Guterres joined the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, who also praised the decision. Yesterday's ruling is a major victory for the LGBTIQ and human rights advocates, and it comes just a month after a Kenyan court rejected attempts to repeal a similar colonial-era law. The joint UN program on HIV and AIDS also welcomed the decision. Now let's get more reaction on this story. Caine Youngman is a policy and legal advocate manager at Lega Bibo, and he joins us now via Skype. Caine, thank you very much indeed for your time. So Botswana's High Court ruling in favor of decriminalizing consensual same-sex relations. It's, I guess, a landmark decision. Firstly, your reaction to this ruling?
I'm happy. I don't think we have enough words to express how happy I am. I mean, as a gay man and living in Botswana and only having known this country, I mean, it's beyond words can say. Basically, I'm happy, and this on its own is also a promise to the LGBTI community in Botswana by our judicial system that, should you ever feel aggrieved as a Botswana individual, feel free to approach the courts and ask for help from the courts. Should you ever feel like you've been violated, your rights have been violated, and not only for the LGBTI community. So this is a promise by the judicial system, basically. It's an affirmation by the judicial system. And we're hoping that this affirmation will basically cascade into the rest of the African region to spread a bit of positivity, especially after our heartfelt loss in Kenya. We're just hoping that things will get better across the region.
Caine, my understanding is that that law has been in place since the 1960s. Those who were in a same-sex relationship, just remind us what they went through.
It's been... Botswana is a different country to most of the African states. We don't have outright violence. We don't have where severe attacks on the streets. So it's a bit different to how things have been handled. But as a country, we have had cases where people were arrested. Like the last arrest on this matter was in 2016, just 3 years ago. There was a gentleman who was caught, prosecuted, and sentenced to 3.5 years in jail. But later, it was 1 year was set aside. But later, he was pardoned by the president. Not pardoned because of the Section 164. No, he was pardoned because every independence every year, we are turning 50 years. And then the Department of Correctional Services submit names of inmates who they recommend to be pardoned by the state president. And he happened to be on the list. But unfortunately, the judgment against him still stands as it is.
Just with regards to this case, Caine, who brought the case to court?
There is a young gentleman we call LM. So he brought the case to court, and we as Lega Bibo, we felt that we needed to demonstrate to the courts that this case is not just about this individual. It affects a greater community in Botswana. It has a huge impact, not just on the LGBT community, but on the country in general. Hence why we applied to be friends of the court. Hence why we went out of our way to gather data to ensure that the court understands the impact of this case.
I want to better understand the language that the court used in terms of decriminalizing consensual same-sex relations. We often take for granted the understanding of what same-sex relations is, as opposed to what's same-sex unions or marriages. For those who are unclear about the definition, what is the difference?
Please repeat the question.
in terms of the definition between same-sex consensual sex relationships as opposed to the definition of same-sex unions or marriage, I want to understand the language used by the court in putting forth this ruling and help us clarify this.
This case was about Section 164, which talked about sex against the order of nature. It had absolutely nothing to do with issues around marriage,
right?
Because marriage law is governed by a different act. Yeah. There is Marriage Act. This one, what we are challenging is the Penal Code provision. So we're weighing the Penal Code provisions against the Constitution. So there are two different things.
Yeah. No, appreciate that clarification with regards to those definitions of the various terms. Look, it's no doubt a significant step for gay rights on the African continent, but this latest ruling in Botswana is in sharp contrast to what you mentioned with regards to Kenya's recent ruling against those seeking to overturn the laws on gay sex. What's your advice to the LGBTI rights activists in countries like Kenya who continue fighting against exclusion and discrimination?
Because I'm LGBT, I'm also Kenyan in this regard. My heart is still pumping for Kenya. But my advice to my comrades is that don't deter. This is about our lives. We can never stop, and don't give up. We are with you in spirit. We will continue supporting you, comrades. So love all the way from Botswana. We will continue fighting the good fight.
Caine, I'm not sure if you did any research with regards to other African countries. Which other African countries have laws outlawing same-sex relations?
Outlawing same-sex?
Relations.
Oh, there are so many. There are more than 30. And you have countries like your Mauritania that has death penalty, certain parts of Nigeria that has death penalty. There are just way too many. And as an African, it is worrisome to me, especially since these laws are archaic and they came with our colonial masters. And then the so-called colonial masters have scraped off these laws. And we're still holding on to these laws, pretending that they're African laws, even though they are colonial laws. Yeah. Before the colonial masters, we didn't have.
Caine, let's just zoom in on attitudes around the world. And no doubt you would know that recently Brunei made sex between men punishable with death through stoning, although reportedly a moratorium was extended on the death penalty. But when you look at countries around the world, can you foresee a shift anytime soon towards more liberal attitudes?
I think so. I think there is a positive shift. I mean, we have countries like Angola, we have countries like right now in Asia, we had another country changing for the positive. I mean, despite the negatives that are going around the country, making strides across the international community. For us as the LGBT community, hope and faith has kept us alive, has gotten us to where we are. We will continue having hope, but not just hope. We will continue ensuring that the lives of the LGBT across the world are respected and are taken care of. We'll continue fighting, we'll continue advocating and lobbying whoever we need to lobby.
All right, let's leave it there. Caine Youngman, a policy and legal advocacy manager at Lego Bibo. Thank you very much indeed for your time.